Happy New Year, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you. First, Luigi Mangione, a monster or a martyr? Well, another documentary exposing the truth. Virtual reality is coming to the courtroom. A man was arrested for another subway attack, but according to the police, he only had a head injury. The Delphi Murder trial records are going to remain sealed indefinitely. A sheriff in that sex scandal where all the cops were sleeping together in Tennessee, well, that now ex-sheriff, he's been arrested. A man drives around with his dead girlfriend in the backseat, and another woman drops her dead husband off at the hospital. We have this day in legal history and our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and hit that little bell for notifications, and you can check us out anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Now, it is the start of the new year. A lot of people are making changes, and guess what? People will be coming into your life in this new year. Go check them out. Go to crimetalksearch.com and do so. Because when you sign up for that background subscription service, you are going to be able to do as many background searches as you desire on anyone. And the beautiful thing is once you get that report emailed to you, you can actually get updates based upon new information that becomes available in the big computer system. I don't know. It's amazing. But you'll be updated if something changes. Go to crimetalksearch.com. You'll be happy you did. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for January 2nd, 2025. And first on the docket, Luigi Mangione, monster or martyr? Let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, if you are in the arena of true crime, or you have a case in the true crime arena, genre, as I guess you could refer to it as, if you're not getting your own special, I mean, it's one thing to be talked about on YouTube and podcasts, but it's another to get your own special. Well, that's right. Luigi Mangione, they're going to be doing that. And obviously, Luigi Mangione is accused of the December 2024 murder of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. And it's been in the headlines. We've talked about it. We've done lots of shows about it. We're going to do a lot more shows about it. But guess what? Another documentary is going to drop. So for those who aren't familiar with it, on December 4th of 2024, the United Healthcare CEO, Thompson, was shot outside of a Hilton in Midtown Manhattan. While the public waited for days for a suspect to be named in the case, Mangione was arrested not long after. And according to police, when Mangione was apprehended at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania on December 9th, he was ultimately extradited back to New York and charged with stalking and murder, both in state and federal court. And there's still charges pending in Pennsylvania, but let's face it, that's the least of his concerns. But guess what? Now, streaming on Tubi, that's right, Tubi, the show Luigi Mangione, Monster or Martyr, is going to come out and discuss and uncover the polarizing Luigi Mangione and his alleged murder. Now, like I said, Luigi Mangione, Monster or Martyr, was going to delve into his backstory, but also dig into the overwhelming social media reaction to the case, including many who have lauded the murder and praised Mangione's good looks. So therefore, he must be innocent. Anyway, the documentary follows releases that have already taken place on ABC's Manhunt, Luigi Mangione and the CEO Murder, a special edition of 2020, which debuted on the network and is now streaming on Hulu. And that also preceded TMZ's Investigates, Luigi Mangione, The Mind of a Killer, which premieres on Fox next Monday, January 6th. So like I say, ladies and gentlemen, you know, this is like the NIL, the name, image, and likeness for college players. You know, if you're going to be in the true crime arena, you're going to be accused of it. You almost should be getting a piece of the action, don't you think? And that's the way it is because, you know, you made it big time. I mean, think about it. We had Chris Watts. We had Lori Vallow, Brian Kohberger, now Luigi Mangione. They are literally becoming household names because of the crimes that they are accused of. Now, we've talked about Luigi Mangione. We talked about the facts. I've told you what the defense should be, and we'll put a link to that as well. They got to go ID, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go mental health because then you're admitting that you did it. You got to go ID because that's an element of the offense. The government has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt unanimously to a jury of 12 people. And if they fail to do so, even if that's how you get around the whole jury nullification, you say they just raised reasonable doubt. I'm not sure that was Luigi Mangione behind the mask because I can't tell. Check out the show we did last week. You'll get the gist. Anyway, the Luigi Mangione empire builds, ladies and gentlemen. Now, there's also been a little bit of talk, and I was looking online over the holiday here, and a lot of people think that Luigi Mangione obviously is being charged with terrorism, but why were there people that didn't get charged with terrorism? For example, you had the Buffalo supermarket shooter, Peyton Gendron. Well, he was charged. Some people need to really check out their facts. Anyway, Gendron was charged with terrorism in the Buffalo shooting and is currently serving time in prison. But back in 2022, the then 18-year-old Peyton Gendron shot and killed 10 people and wounded another 3 in a racially motivated attack at a Tops supermarket in Buffalo, New York. He specifically cited the Great Replacement Theory, a conspiracy theory centering around the belief that white Americans are being systematically replaced by minorities as rationale for the attack. Anyway, like I said, there was a post on X that claimed that Gendron was not charged with terrorism by authorities, and that somehow there was this hypocrisy that Luigi Mangione, who shot and killed, allegedly, the healthcare insurance company executive, was charged with terrorism. Well, like I said, that's false. He was. In fact, he was charged by federal prosecutors with domestic terrorism motivated by hate and murder, both of which to which he pled guilty. In fact, Mr. Gendron actually apologized in court, stating, "I did a terrible thing that day. I shot and killed people because they were black." Looking back now, he said he couldn't believe he actually did it. So, and also, the Department of Justice prosecuted that claim, stating that the indictment against Gendron showed special findings alleging, among other things, that Mr. Gendron committed the offense after substantial planning and premeditation to commit an act of terrorism. And the statement can be found on page 11 of the indictment that was actually filed against Mr. Gendron. Now, like I said, the 18-year-old apologized in court, stating, "I did a terrible thing, can't believe he did it." And that kind of fits the better fit for this terrorism charge, for obviously bringing, for violent crimes. The Mangione one, I've talked about the fact that counts 1 and 2 are this terrorism charge, and I don't think that that's an appropriate charge. I would just start with count 3, get rid of count 1 and 2, just go with the good old-fashioned murder, and the prosecution will have a better chance of doing it. Frankly, I don't think the elements can be met that somehow Mangione was trying to influence public policy. I just don't see that. Who are they going to call in as a witness to testify that because of Mangione, your insurance rates have gone down because of fear from the insurance companies? That ain't going to happen. I know, bad English. Sorry, I apologize. But it's not going to happen. So just something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be talking about Luigi Mangione quite a bit here in the new future. Guess what's coming to a courtroom near you? It just came there. It's called virtual reality. I'm not sure how I feel about this, but at a hearing for a stand your ground case down in Florida, Broward County to be specific, a judge by the name of Andrew Siegel got to experience a unique approach to understanding the defense expert's opinion. He got to use a virtual reality headset. It's believed to be a first time that it's been used in at least a Florida courtroom, and I'm not aware of any time it's been used in any courtroom across the country. So what takes place is an artist designs an immersive experience using the Oculus Quest 2 VR headset to illustrate a defense expert's opinion in the case of the Southwest Ranches wedding venue owned by a guy by the name of Miguel Albizu. Now, Albizu is accused of waving a gun at guests at a reception back in 2023, and he was charged with an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And so apparently in court, they're like, hey, this is when he pulls the gun out, when he's backed up against the bar, the expert would testify to, and Albizu has claimed that he was acting in self-defense. Anyway, Albizu's attorney said Albizu's wife and son were attacked and a chair was thrown by a DJ and it hit a party planner, injuring her wrist. They were all able to get out, glass shattered everywhere, get out of the wedding facility and, wake up Mr. Albizu, because apparently he was sleeping when all this went down. Anyway, having all this information, he immediately directed his wife to call 911 and then proceeded immediately to save the staff from injury and potentially death, save his building, his home, from people that were intoxicated at this wedding. And he went in there with the goal of de-escalating this party. That's his theory. And the attorney believes that, like I said, this is the first time it's been admitted in evidence in a Florida courtroom. Anyway, the attorney that's doing this did a first back in 1992 as a homicide prosecutor, and he introduced the first computer animation into evidence. It became one of the first cases in the United States upholding the use of computer animation in criminal cases. Now, since that time, everything's evolved a little bit, and things have exceeded where we were obviously back in 1992. So the question is, what are we going to do with this in the future? And is it accurate? That's the issue that's really going to have to be brought in. Now, this particular case was a hearing for the Make My Day statute, or Stand Your Ground statute in Florida, which basically is, he gets immunity, and so he shouldn't have to go to trial. So the judge can look at this and say, all right, I'll take a look at it. I'll consider it, and he can decide what weight, if anything, to do about it. Now, like I said, it's been mentioned that computer animation has been in the courtrooms for years, and there used to be a lot of fight with it, how it comes in, because you can't really say that's exactly how it happened. Maybe more accurately, like in an auto accident case, where you can get all the numbers and weights from like a truck and a car, and you can say they skidded here and they did this, and you can kind of recreate it. But it's based upon what you believe happened, and you try to back it up with as much stuff. And frankly, I'm just not sure at this point, the juice is worth the squeeze, so to speak. It's so expensive. We looked into it years and years ago to use in a case, and the cost was just prohibitive. So I can imagine what AI is these days, but who knows? Maybe it'll be even easier. You can go on ChatGPT and ask him to create a picture for you, and it creates a picture. It's crazy. So maybe you can say, hey, these are all the facts. Create me a scenario or a video of what actually took place. We'll see. No decision yet as to whether the court is going to rule in Mr. Albizu's favor, and whether he's still going to have to stand trial. Next on the docket, another subway attack. This one, though, the police said, well, at least he only had a head injury. A man allegedly pushed another man into the train tracks at a New York subway station, appeared in court on Wednesday morning. Now, police say 23-year-old Kamel Hawkins pushed a 45-year-old man off the platform into the path of a train at the 18th Street station in Manhattan's Chelsea neighborhood Tuesday afternoon. Now, Hawkins was arraigned in court and charged with attempted murder and assault, and he's ordered held without bail. Now, the New York City Police Department says that Hawkins has prior arrests dating back to October of 2024 for aggravated harassment, and in June of 2019 for assault on a peace officer. Now, this is what the police say. Well, actually, he suffered a fractured skull, broken ribs, and a ruptured spleen because he got hit by a train. The man is lucky he wasn't chopped in two. Now, the man that was pushed into the train apparently is a music professional, and his name has not been released. But needless to say, people in New York are getting a little upset because apparently crime is up about 30% from pre-pandemic levels there on the train. Now, obviously, you got a lot of people with drug issues and mental health issues, and where do they go to seek shelter when it's cold outside? Well, they go down to the subways. Anyway, bad case. We'll follow it. There's evil in the world, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's a new year. We're going to be positive. I promise the lovely Miss Kristen we're going to be more positive of everything that's taking place in the world. But the reality of it is there is simply pure evil. Some people just aren't wired right. Some people just can't be in society. And I'm telling you, as a criminal defense attorney, it's there to protect everybody's rights. There's some people that just don't belong among us if they cannot behave. If they cannot behave like civilized human beings and not commit violent acts against other people. Just something to think about. Next, no transparency in the Delphi case. That's right. Our favorite judge, Judge Francis C. Gull, and I'm being facetious when I say favorite, signed an order on December 30th that all crime scene and autopsy photos and medical and mental health records are to be sealed and maintained as confidential indefinitely. Now, the Carroll County prosecutor who had prosecuted the case asked the court in a motion to seal all sensitive records, including crime scene and autopsy photos connected with the Delphi murder investigation. Now, in the motion filed last Friday morning, the day of the convicted murderer Richard Allen's sentencing, prosecutor Nick McClellan asked the court to seal the crime scene photos, autopsy photos, reports, and mental health records that were presented at trial. According to the motion, the material includes gruesome photos of the aftermath, as well as the photos of Abby Williams and Libby German from their autopsies. The mental health and medical records from Mr. Allen were also asked to be protected. Now, in his motion, the state noted that the crime scene photos had already been made their way to the public when they were negligently released by Allen's defense team in an evidence leak that sent the proceedings into a spiral years ago. We've talked about that before, where somebody that the attorneys trusted took photos without the attorney's knowledge, and it got sent out, and just a big mess. The judge called the attorneys incompetent, kicked them off the case. It went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, no, Judge Francis C. Gull, you can't do that. So anyway, it's just been a big mess. Big mess. And so the prosecution saying the release of those photos has caused irreparable harm to the victims' families, and they want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. The prosecutor also said the release of the autopsy photos would have the same impact on the families and re-traumatize them for years to come. Now, he said that the court had the ability to seal certain records within the mandatory exception to the Indiana Access to Public Records Act. And from the very onset of Allen's arrest, McClellan has worked to shield the information from the public. When the Indiana State Police announced Allen's arrest in October of 2022, McClellan had already asked the court to seal the probable cause affidavit and the charging documents. And then Special Judge Francis C. Gull approved the release of a redacted version of the probable cause affidavit back in November of 2022, but she did release several documents relating to the Delphi murders in June of 2023. I'm not going to lie, I have some mixed emotions about this. Obviously, I am a firm believer that if it was presented in evidence, that it should be available to the public when the trial is done. I'm sympathetic to the families. I'm sympathetic regarding the photos. You know, autopsy photos, they're not great. You don't want to look at autopsy photos. I mean, there's one thing in my life I've told everybody. If I die, I die. Just one thing. No autopsy. No autopsy. Ugh, don't want to do it. Anyway, so I'm sympathetic to the family. I really am. There's certain things that have to be redacted, the medical records. I get that. The photos, they can be redacted. It can be done. I get it. But in a free society, ladies and gentlemen, we have to sometimes see things that disturb us, and they may be upsetting and disturbing to other people. I know, but if you start making exceptions to things that are sensitive and it could hurt or offend people, the list just keeps growing, and then nobody has access to anything. We already see it. Look how they keep information from us in so many cases right now. Oh, it's a secret. It's going to taint the jury, blah, blah. Release it. It's public information. It should be released. All right, next on the docket. Remember that case way back where the young female police officer was like sleeping with a bunch of police officers, allegedly? Well, anyway, the sheriff that was in charge in that case, he's been arrested. That's right. The former Laverne police chief, decertified earlier this month, has been charged. I mean, decertified as a police officer. And he's been charged with aggravated stalking, according to the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office. Now, the Murfreesboro Police Department reports that Burrell Chip Davis was arrested about 5 p.m. on Monday, December 23rd, at an apartment complex in Murfreesboro. He was taken into custody on a warrant for aggravated stalking after allegedly violating an order of protection, and he was arrested without incident and booked into the Rutherford County Adult Detention Center. According to the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, Mr. Davis was booked on a $3,000 bond. No real further details of the circumstances surrounding the charges were released either. Now, like I said, Mr. Davis was decertified earlier this month following a recommendation from the Peace Officer Standard and Training Commission, that's POST, P-O-S-T, and the recommendation came in connection to the 2023 sex scandal that rocked the LaVerge Police Department. 5 officers were fired following the incident, And Davis claimed he was not involved in the scandal and sued the city of Laverne for reinstatement and back pay earlier this year. Now, Davis had claimed he had no knowledge of any sexual relationship between officers on his force when a whistleblower claimed that a woman by the name of Miss Hall was having intimate relationships with multiple male colleagues and even doing it on police property. Now, over the course of the investigation, it was found out that a Miss Hall was having sex with multiple fellow officers, including Officer Lewis Powell, and that they had carried out sex acts while on duty. When the investigation later questioned her about the claims that Hall had said that she had played games of strip Uno, exchanged foot fetish photos, and played out wife-swapping sessions with fellow officers. Apparently, that is when Davis said the city officials first asked about the graphic images of Miss Hall that were circulating around the police department. He claimed that he cooperated with investigators at the time, and when they couldn't find that he had committed any wrongdoing, he was allowed to return to work. But later, Ms. Hall claimed that she had been sexually groomed by her predator superiors and had tried to even kill herself as a result of the grooming. She then filed her own lawsuit, claiming that Sergeant Powell positioned himself as a reliable source of companionship and advice regarding Ms. Hall's police career and even her marriage. Anyway, it was alleged in the lawsuit that Sergeant Powell persisted in his request for sex despite Miss Hall's resistance. Eventually, Miss Hall just gave in to Sergeant Powell's request for sexual favors. She went on to claim that Sergeant Powell threatened to even kill himself when she tried to stop. Now, at first, Powell denied the relationship, but later admitted to it, claiming that Davis had told him to lie. Hall also claimed that Davis was no better than his subordinates, inviting Hall on lunch dates, asking her to come into his office to dance for him, and questioned whether she preferred dark, white, or milk chocolate. Now, it later emerged that Mr. Davis had shared explicit videos of Miss Hall and made sexist comments on a secret burner phone he nicknamed Old Boy. Now, Mr. Davis feigned surprise as he oversaw the internal inquiry into the scandal, but court records show and reveal that Mr. Davis knew all about the events before the inquiry and had even pestered one of his sergeants to send him a video of Miss Hall pleasuring herself. Anyway, Mr. Davis was fired from his position in the aftermath of the city of Laverne, who ultimately settled the suit for $500,000 with no admission of guilt on the city's behalf. The disgraced police chief later tried to file his own lawsuit like Miss Hall because she got $500,000, claiming that he was fired due to racial discrimination. He told the commissioners on December 12th that his suit was denied because he filed it one day too late, and he placed the blame back on Miss Hall, who even suggested at one point there should have been a criminal investigation with Hall as the primary suspect with the many victims. Mr. Davis also said, hey, this all stems from a private party on a houseboat and had nothing to do with police department other than the fact that the officers were there. If they were concerned about me, well, my head of internal affairs had sex with her on the boat, but he's still working there. It goes on everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I understand we like the police. We like good police. Bad police, they got to go. They got to go. They don't get a free pass for everything. And like I said, when you're a public servant, you have to do it better and cleaner than everybody else. Just the way it is. Next on the docket, this is what you call a bad traffic stop for a driver. So after finding a woman's body inside a car at a gas station on Tuesday, police have arrested the suspect in connection with her death. Now, this took place in Utah. Now, the driver of the car was a guy by the name of Jacob Johnson, and he was booked into the Salt Lake County Jail for investigation of a murder charge. Apparently, a judge found that there's probable cause to support the charge and ordered him to be held without bail, which is good, I guess. Anyway, how this all came down was that officers at the Harriman Police Department made contact with Mr. Johnson at a 7-Eleven gas station on Redwood Road shortly after midnight. They received a call from the Saratoga Springs Police Department asking to help with a DUI investigation. Well, while speaking with Mr. Johnson on the DUI investigation, the Harriman officers saw a woman's body in the backseat of the car, and she had some significant injuries and trauma that would be consistent with a homicide, which, needless to say, gave rise to probable cause to see what was in the car. The police then removed Mr. Johnson from the car and took him into the police department for questioning. And Mr. Johnson told the police officers that he and the victim were intimate partners currently living together there in Harriman. Johnson also said that he was arguing with the woman, stating that it was over their relationship. Anyway, the police asked Mr. Johnson during the interview if the woman had any injuries, and he said, well, there's going to be some physical trauma, but he didn't really elaborate a whole lot further. Anyway, when asked how the victim got into the car, Mr. Johnson said, well, I put her in there. Court records also show that Mr. Johnson previously pled guilty to driving under the influence. He's also pled guilty over the years to charges including felony theft and burglary. Not looking good for Mr. Johnson, to say the least. But at least he was honest, I guess. Not going to do him any favors. But you could do the honorable thing like this woman. She dropped her husband's body off at the hospital. That's right. A woman in Alabama was arrested on New Year's Day after she allegedly shot and killed her ex-husband, then dropped his body off at the local hospital. Now, Genesis P. Tanksley was taken into custody on Wednesday and charged with one count of murder in the slaying of Lazarius Tanksley, according to police records. Now, detectives with the Mobile Police Department and the Homicide Unit received a report about 1 a.m. on January 1st, and they ultimately responded to the police department after being contacted regarding a deceased black male. Hospital personnel told the officers that the victim had been dropped off at the facility by a black woman driving her personal car. It turned out it was a silver Lexus SUV. The woman was later identified as Genesis Tanksley and was described as having braided hair with red tips. Well, after identifying the victim as Lazarius Tanksley, officers responded to the home, which is about 240 miles southwest of Birmingham. Shortly afterward, the sheriff's office took control of the investigation, and the investigators at the scene made contact with the male witness who was allegedly at the home at the time of the shooting. The witness allegedly told investigators that he had helped a woman load Lazarius into the silver Lexus SUV, and while the witness did not know the woman's name, he allegedly said she was the victim's ex and described her as being a black woman whose hair was braided with tips on the ends that are red. A second witness at about 11 a.m. on Wednesday contacted the sheriff's major crime unit regarding the shooting, and the witness claimed to have been present at the time of the shooting as well. The witness stated that she traveled to the victim's residence, that's right, with Genesis Tanksley, and she reportedly said that Genesis and the victim were arguing, and then she heard a gunshot. She fled the scene on foot and had not spoken to Genesis since the shooting. Now, Genesis Tanksley has, like I said, been arrested and booked into the Mobile County Jail and is being held without bond. Ladies and gentlemen, that is one way to start the new year. I guess out with the old, in with the new, freedom, not so much freedom. I don't know. Sometimes you got to just let it go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure the defense will be self-defense since there's no witnesses and to the shooting, which is always good. If you're going to have a shooting, let there be only two witnesses and only one's going to show up for court because the other one's dead. Next on the docket, this day in legal history. January 2nd, 1788. Georgia ratifies the United States Constitution. Obviously significant because, they helped become the United States of America. On this day, January 2nd, 1935, the trial of Bruno Richard Hauptmann begins. Now, Mr. Bruno Richard Hauptmann went on trial for the kidnapping and murder of Charles Lindbergh's 20-month-old son. And the trial was quite significant because it captivated the nation, leading to significant media coverage and influencing future legal proceedings regarding media's presence in the courtroom. And one of the most ridiculous laws I can possibly think of, January 2nd, 1974, the national maximum speed limit was enacted. It was signed by President Richard Nixon. Like I said, the Emergency Highway Energy Conservation Act established a national speed limit of 55 miles an hour to conserve fuel during the OPEC oil embargo. Obviously, it's standardized speed limits across the states, impacting federal and state relations concerning transportation regulations. Let the states do it themselves. I know we can do a little bit faster now in some parts, but just let the states do what they want. Where in the Constitution does it say the federal government can regulate speed limits? I don't think speed limits were a thing when the Founding Fathers did that. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. And then on January 2nd, 1920, 500 government federal agents acting at the direction of the United States Attorney General at the time, a guy by the name of Mitchell Palmer, carried out a massive counter-terror operation in 33 cities, arresting between 6,000 and 10,000 aliens suspected of being communists, radicals, and anarchists. What was known as the Palmer raids and the detention and deportation proceedings that followed them were denounced by a number of prominent lawyers and judges who later helped establish the American Civil Liberties Union. Bet you didn't know that, did ya? Neither did I till I learned it today. Anyway, next on the docket, our dumb criminal of the day. A Missouri motorist clocked doing 107 miles per hour. Just another reason why I don't need the speed limit restrictions. Well, anyway, he told the police officers that he was unaware that he was speeding because I was a little preoccupied playing this video game here while I was driving. It's only January 2nd, ladies and gentlemen, and we already have a plethora of dumb criminals this year. Dakota Crater, guy's 25, pulled over in a village about 10 miles north of Kansas City. Now, Mr. Crater was behind the wheel of a 2023 Nissan Sentra when cited for exceeding the posted 65 mile per hour speed limit, and he was also driving on a suspended license. Now, police say that Crater admitted playing a video game while driving. He's facing speeding and other vehicular charges, and he's scheduled to be in court on April 15th. Mr. Crater, you are a dumb criminal of the day. I like speed just as much as the next guy, but when I go fast, I like to have both hands on the wheel, 10 and 2 o'clock, paying attention to my surroundings, other vehicles, police officers behind me. I'm certainly not playing a video game while I'm driving. Mr. Crater, you are the first dumb criminal of the day, 2025 in Crime Talk. Congratulations, you made it. All right, that's all we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to see how things go over the next couple of days. I'm also supposed to be in trial next week, but I think if we get something set up, I may go live at night. Probably need to just unwind from a day in court. So we'll see how that goes. Unfortunately, like I said, I have to go be in trial for a couple of days, but it'll be fast. And maybe when we get done, we can talk about it a little bit more. But tough case. Tough case, ladies and gentlemen, but that's what you get paid the big bucks for, to take the tough cases when nobody else will. All right. Happy New Year. We'll see you all next time on Crime Talk. And remember, the Constitution matters.